I'm here with Paul, our new associate therapist at 413 Theraworks, and today we are talking all things men's mental health. So welcome, Paul. And let's start by talking about what you see as some of the biggest mental health challenges that men face today.
Wow. There's a lot, and there's more and more every day, it seems. Gosh, what I see mostly from men right now is a lot of loneliness and a lot of lack of meaning in their lives.
Mhm.
And that can really kind of bear fruit in so many different ways in their life. Speaking sort of symptom wise, it really um, depression and anxiety are really the two biggest issues that come out of those issues, and they rear their heads in so many different ways in men's lives. And within that, one of the biggest issues is emotional intelligence for men as well, not knowing what the heck is going on when things are going on, let alone what to do with it.
Yeah.
And so I would definitely say, you know, basically feelings and a feeling of gosh, being left behind and lost, I've got to say, is pretty prevalent these days.
Oh, so with that said too, how do social norms around masculinity affect whether or how men seek out therapy or seek out support?
Yeah, well, you would think in the last 20 years or so, with the ways that masculinity has really been shown so in our social and cultural ways, um, that it would adjust a little bit, and these masculine norms would have at least tried to turn around some good for men. But unfortunately, it's really doubled down, and this is where I mentioned feeling sort of lost and left behind, because there's a lot of cultural norms that are really new and some that are very, very old. But I feel we don't know what to do with any of them, and we've lost a lot of the connections that we really need, both within ourselves and within our communities. Um, that really kind of buttress these masculinity norms, I guess, in positive ways. And what's really come out because of that is this quote unquote toxic masculinity, and that on its own has really done a bit of a number on how we feel about our masculinity as men,
Yeah.
and how we feel as men. On the whole, we're born broken. We are born evil, it seems, in some ways in this culture. And what are we supposed to do with that, right? And so it's really, and it sort of, again, goes back to what do we do with ourselves when we start to feel these things, and the guilt and shame that come in out of that are really just built into our genes, it seems, from long, long ago. and
Yeah. How do
oh,
you like, so kind of along this similar vein, what you're describing is things that all men may experience. What are some common signs that a man might be struggling emotionally, even if he doesn't realize it himself? Like something that might be a little bit more than the norm per se.
Sure, sure. Well, in our day and age, anger is definitely one of those things that is definitely an indicator for, and it's a really misunderstood and underutilized emotion, and it really comes up in a lot of men in a way that's really untethered and uncontrolled, and oftentimes when I'm meeting men who are looking for help, it's because um, their anger and etc. have become basically short, and this is really part and parcel to the experience. I feel like anger is really, when properly utilized, is a very important part of our experience, be it male or female.
Mhm.
Um, and within that whole toxic norm, that toxic masculinity norm, excuse me, that we see ourselves as basically inherently angry and inherently full of rage, but that's just really misused tools. And once we are able to use these tools and understand why we're feeling angry in the first place, and it usually has to do with boundaries, and that's another huge issue in men's lives right now. How do we set healthy boundaries? And what are healthy boundaries?
Yeah.
And so those are really come up a lot in terms of, all right, I need to do something because it's really running rampant in my life right now.
Mhm. And what would you say to a man who thinks maybe therapy isn't for him? Like if he is experiencing the things that you're describing right now, or he is getting feedback from loved ones too, like, hey, maybe if you kind of talk to a third party, you could sort some of this out. And again, I think it goes back to too, like so much stigma still associated with mental health and seeking support. What would you say to a man who kind of maybe in that space, but doesn't think like therapy is for him?
I would say I totally understand, and of course you don't feel that way. I mean, look at going back to the society and the culture right now, and mental health, uh, healing, all of that on the whole just seems like it's not written for men. Um, and whether politics or not, I can understand why a lot of men would feel disenfranchised, let alone the stigma within all of that. That's been around for so long, and I feel like they sort of feed into each other. And so on top of that, it just feel a little finalist, but I would definitely say to that man, after I would agree with him, that I would ask, sort of, what is it that is making you feel not correct? And honestly, um, I would understand their needs are not really being met in a lot of ways. A lot of men are looking for straight, pragmatic plans, which are out there, and some of them are by root of some theories and things like that they may not agree with either. And so I really feel it is in the truest form of being client centered that you really look at the person as a counselor, as a healer, whatever you want to call it, in what they want and need specifically. And I really see after that a lot of the males that have been trepidatious about sort of joining with me kind of lighten up very quickly once they realize that um, you know I'm looking at them and I'm not looking at just an angry man.
You're
We can
being
kind of look past
curious,
that.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
you're being
not
curious
just
about their
curious, but
experience.
open.
Yeah.
Exactly, open and yes, and interested as well.
Mhm. Mhm. And that kind of segued into the question a little bit too, like how you approach the therapy work that you do with men differently than women who come in or non-binary who come into your office. And it sounds like we're hearing a little bit about that now. But what else? Like how else do you show up in therapy with a man that may be differently than other clients that come through your door?
Well, honestly, I have to say, if I'm being really transparent, I'm going to treat everybody that walks through my door differently, be it male, female, non-binary, and that's really the trick there. And so there's no secret within demographics and things like that. Honestly, we can use wide brushes to paint these big ideas about what men are going through right now in terms of mental health and everything, but they just need to be listened to just like everybody else. And it's really that simple. There's no real like magic key to the lock that men are having. It's really just listen to them on a real human kind of level, and where they're coming from without any kind of, that's it, judgment. Some good old fashioned compassion. There's nothing non masculine about good compassion, and non judgmental compassion. And we can use some of that on our own as well, I feel. So it's a good chance to model that stuff for the men that I see in my sessions.
Absolutely. And then lastly, how can partners, friends, family, how can they support a man who may be worried, that they're worried about without making them feel like they are being judged or they are weak or they are flawed in some way? What's the best suggestion maybe two family members or loved ones who do want to have this conversation with a man in their lives?
Sure, sure. I can see how difficult it is to speak to someone, especially who may not be ready to change themselves. These things are manifesting, but they're not. They don't know what to do with it or where to go. And with that, I would say just take a couple steps back and really, I would say, kind of defocus a little bit on those issues, right? On, okay, what's wrong, you need to be fixed, etc. I can't tell you how many, gosh, wives and mothers I have who bring clients in, male clients, who are just like, okay, you need to fix him, all right, just and drop him off like he's going to daycare kind of thing. Gosh, it's not my place to be the most human person in their life, right? It
Good point.
starts with the family and with that support system. And oftentimes I'm teaching families how to treat each other that way. And again, there's no code or magic key to this. It's just sort of being human, compassionate, not judgmental, but also like coming at him in not that sort of almost combative way. You have to let them come a bit halfway. And so you need to drop seeds. And so, sure, some of these things are becoming really difficult to handle in your life. And that's understandable. But he'll always come along eventually. And when he does, it's going to mean a lot more than when you drop him off at daycare.
Great point. Thank you so much for your time today, Paul. We really appreciate your insights.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really looking forward to be part of the team.